presumably male feminists would be dating female feminists. And in my estimation, female feminists, or in anybody of the postmodernist critical studies ideology, anybody who really buys into it, is not as well prepared for relationships as they might otherwise be. And the reason I say that is because if you buy into the critical theory feminism, the real ideological feminism, not equality, not feminism that says we're all equal, not that, but the actual ideological feminism, then what you're practicing over and over and over again, and this has been broken down really nicely by people like Jonathan Haidt, that you're practicing a victim mindset and you're practicing skills that don't translate well to a relationship. So if you're dating someone who is a dyed-in-the-wool ideological feminist, if you're a man dating this woman, and this woman has been conditioned to believe that men are her constant oppressors, that she has really gotten the short end of the stick. Never mind the guy across the street that's building the building, and the guy who takes out her trash, and the guy who maintains her sewer, and the guy who keeps her electricity on. Never mind those guys. She's been taught that she has been grossly mistreated by the patriarchy. Well, if you're the closest man, guess what's going to happen? She's going to see you as her oppressor. And if you also are primed to believe that you're her oppressor, this is a horrible footing for a relationship, because you've got somebody who's way up here being the righteous victim, and this other person who's way down here who is the nasty oppressor. And ironically, the victim is oppressing the oppressor. And I'm not, so that's one reason is that men should really probably avoid dating doctrinaire feminists, that you are going to be seen as the oppressor at some point. But another reason is just the fact that this kind of ideology, and there are ideologies like this for men too, but this kind of ideology where I'm rehearsing the notion that I'm a victim. Well, what am I not doing while I'm rehearsing that? What I'm not doing is learning how to give and take with other human beings. What I'm not doing is learning how to have a healthy, mutually respectful relationship where we're on equal footing. I'm not practicing any of that. I'm just practicing my victim narrative.
That's fascinating. I'm in the Bay Area, and the Bay Area is sort of ground zero for a lot of this stuff. And I've talked to a number of women personally who completely believe that marriage in particular was a repressive institution where the women were the property of the men, and marriage was an instrument of patriarchal control. And they want to get married, which is very boggling to me.
How do you suppose they reconcile that?
That's my question to you, because it's like I've encountered many women who can say pretty much that perspective verbatim on the institution of marriage, but I have yet to meet one who says, I refuse to get married on ideological grounds.
That just fascinates me.
Like the woman I'm thinking of who said almost those exact language. I was at her wedding like 4 years ago. I wonder if her husband.
So she's dying to enter this patriarchal, oppressive institution.
It doesn't make sense to me.
No. Well, I guess one possibility is that maybe she doesn't really believe it's that patriarchal and oppressive. Because if she actually thought she was entering into bondage, I don't know, would she do it? Seems unlikely.
Seems unlikely to me too. Let's take another tack, which is, are you familiar with the old Greek play Lysistrata?
No, man, I went to public school. Tell me about Lysistrata.
Lysistrata, I think it was written by Aristophanes. He wrote some comedies back in the day, and this is a very readable play, for ancient Greek theater. And in summary, the plot is that there's a bunch of guys who are just interested in going to war. They're out all day. They're practicing their military exercises. They're always going out on campaigns. They're just thinking about the next thing that they can conquer. And the women are pissed off because they're just sort of left at home with the kids. They miss their husbands. They don't want to be in a state of perpetual conflict.
Can I ask a
So they
question?
just, what's that?
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Are they angry because they want to go to war? Or are they angry because their men are gone and they want their men home?
They want the men at home. I
Okay.
think it's from a perspective of like, I miss my husband. My
Okay.
husband should be spending time with me and the family at home instead of running around with his guy friends and trying to kill and conquer. That's the perspective. Okay. And so the women get together and they sort of devise a plan. And the plan is that and they had to like swear a blood oath because if anyone broke it, the entire strategy would fall apart. And the strategy was no woman would have sex with her husband until the husbands decided to stop the current war. And that happens in like act one. And the next like three acts are like at first the men sort of like laugh it off. Yeah, that woman will be running back to me and my little man in a week or two, and that doesn't happen. And then the men start to like wheedle down certain women to try to create some divisiveness in the group, and that doesn't work either. And then the men get angry, and then the men start to plead, and then the men eventually agree, and there's a victory. And the men decide, yes, this war was stupid. Women are right. We're going to come home, and the women all fuck their husbands. So it's a really interesting story. And I've experienced something akin to Lysistrata while dating in the Bay Area. I have certainly met and dated women who very explicitly withheld sex or refused to date me because I didn't agree completely with their ideological perspectives. Have you encountered that, Shawn?
Well, I'm an old married guy, but I've certainly heard it. Yeah. And it's easy for me to say from where I sit because I have a good relationship, a great marriage with a wonderful woman. But my armchair assessment is good. Make room for somebody who actually appreciates you. She doesn't
Oh,
want to,
sure.
she
No,
doesn't see the value, but
no real love lost there. I'm thinking in particular of one woman who worked as a librarian. She worked in the library system, and I have thousands of books. I'm an avid reader, but she came over to my house and she saw that most of my authors were male. And
mhm.
she said she couldn't date me anymore because I didn't read more female authors than male authors. My rebuttal is I generally read more female authors than people read authors because I read so much, but it didn't make sense to me to choose books that I was going to spend time reading simply because of the gender of the author. I was going to read things that were interesting to me because it's my time and I should be able to follow my own interests. And I
Not
think
according to her.
not according to her, but I think she felt very justified in doing that because I think there is a strain of feminist thought that says that kind of has that Lysistrata approach, which is we can't reinforce men's disagreement with these ideologies. And the easiest way to not reinforce that is to not have sex with them, to not date them, to not give them opportunities for dating and mating.
Yeah. The flaw in their reasoning is that they're not in a small society like in the play. They're in a big society where a lot of women vote for conservatives. So they're competing with the women who actually appreciate men who have, who aren't apologetic about their masculinity.